Greetings once again, folks, and once again welcome to another session of my Artsy Musings. And as you can see, we are currently busy, today being the third session of this particular portrait of Siam the lion. And yes, let's just get into it, and then I can talk as I go. Where should I start? So, after much deliberation, I have decided to, after all my indecisiveness, I've decided to, in fact, put the sky in and bugger the consequences. Yeah, so that's what I'm going to be doing, and I've done a couple of scribbles here of this tree, but the other day, but I don't want it in right now. I'll put it in afterwards, but I want to get this nice smooth vignette going of the sky, and I want to make it start off from a slightly darker. Let's put these down here just to get them completely out the way, these little clips, so that I can work to the page, to the edge of the image area, as I am wont to do. Right, so we're going to go from a sort of a lilac-y blue from the left, and going into a pale blue, and then into basically into almost white out. So let's start with this lilac. Actually, this lilac can be, I've got a couple of lilacs here I want to use. Let's just see if there's, yeah, we'll start with that one. And I always like to build a nice solid and smooth vignette. Even though it's pale, I like it to be wonderfully blended, so that it's not kind of too obtrusive, and that it kind of overpowers the piece as a whole. So just this nice soft blend right across. Let's just work with our lilac here a bit. Darker of the two lilacs that I'm going to be using. And I might also just add a little bit of a sort of what would it be, ultramarine on the far sort of extremity of this side. So yeah, what you see now is going to be vastly softened. I just thought, you know, after pondering and pondering and pondering, let me just cut my losses and add it in. It is asking for it, and yeah, I have to heed the ask. Right, let's bring in some pale blue and blend these colors across. First of all, though, however, a little bit of a lighter lilac, just to transition. So we'll have a nice smooth transition actually right across from the ultramarine into the lilac, into the pale blue, and into the very, very pale blue, almost white. And as you can see, when I do put the sky in, I like to do it before I add anything on top of it, so that I'm not, well, except for his head, but in this scenario, but it's quite easy to just work around that. But when I've got, like, for example, I'll have it, you'll see I'll have a very dry, starkly dry tree shrub behind him here, just over this side. And if I tried to do the sky after I put that in, it wouldn't work out nicely. So I wouldn't get this nice smooth, broad finish, and it would be far more bitty and actually draw attention more to the sky than to the rest of the piece. And I want that sky to almost recede. If you get my drift. Let's just pull some of this off here. Let's get this wrapper off this. Come on, let's go. Some of these wrappers can be quite belligerent. Let's just intensify this a little bit here. And let's just bring in some of the blue that I was talking about. I actually need a new one of these. Yeah. So just a slight darkening on this left hand, on the left hand side over here. Not very much, just a little. As for timing, I think, again, after much deliberation and whatnot, I think I might stretch this out into a 4th session. So yeah, after all, reason being is that I was originally planning on going away this evening and tomorrow, so that I wouldn't be able to be recording another session tomorrow. But now I'm not going to be going away anymore, so that is taking care of that. So I do have time for yet another session, and just I really want to work this up quite nicely and to its fullest, as I always enjoy doing. When I started this piece, I thought, it's only going to be a three session piece, but turns out it needs a little bit more. So I'm going to give it that. Just bring in a little bit of pale blue right across here, just to soften it a bit more. Oopsie, sorry, I have turned the easel slightly so that you kind of get a better view of this thing and of the artwork itself. But because I have turned it now, that it's the angle is better, so you don't get this warped perspective so much or as pronounced, even though it is still there a bit. But now I need to shift around a little bit more as well. Anyway, all good. Right, so I'm going to bring this blue, pale blue, right to the end and then soften it with a little bit of white. In fact, I might even just work my white in throughout. Yeah, I think it'll work. I think it'll work, complement the rest of the artwork quite nicely. Just enhancing that early morning the early morning light. Still towards the more indigos, as we look more towards the west, the north and west, where the sky is still starting to lighten. and towards the east more over there. The sun has risen, so yeah, it is lighter and brighter. Okie dokie. So let's just bring in some of the white then. And we'll blend all of this nicely together. Lots of chalk dust, which we shall have to blow off shortly. So yeah, now it's nice and soft. It's a nice, soft, smooth finish right across. Work it into the paper. Really rub it in so that it actually a little bit more white over here. So, to just recap about the reason for this piece. Oh, goodness me, there is a lot of... Yeah, so Siam, the dearly departed, is a lion who was with the Kevin Richardson Wildlife Sanctuary, and recently passed away, sadly. And Kevin Richardson then posted up a video on his channel, his YouTube channel, about featuring Siam and obviously a tribute to him and his life, and a very, very poignant, heart-rending video in a way, that really just, well, tugged at my heartstrings, and I realized that I really needed to in some way also pay tribute to this magnificent creature, and also, yeah, something about this fellow, that his character, his presence, I don't know. It was just a calling of sorts, and I needed to address that, and also tackle my first wildlife artwork. Fairly standard in its approach, and its rendering. Or rather, not in its rendering necessarily, but in its composition, the pose and everything else. It's a fairly sort of a classic pose, etc., a classic scene. I think that the character justified it, as opposed to doing a really close-up. I don't know, for whatever reason, because I had a spread of a spread of reference images, and I realized that of those, the one that was really speaking to me the most was kind of this look, formal, if you want to put it that way. It's a kind of a, who's me? What's happening back here? It's a kind of formal layout composition, because it's a somber and formal tribute to Siam. I thought it was fitting. I may or may not in future do more close-ups of him. I don't know. Maybe this will be the only one. I don't know at this point. I am just thoroughly enjoying the mood and atmosphere of this piece so far. I'm enjoying actually capturing Siam in his habitat, and also just capturing or attempting to capture his gaze and his mood, his stillness, his poise, his energy, his vigor. As a fairly elderly at this point, and yet incredibly intense lion, but with a wonderful nature, as I gleaned from Kevin's video. And please, by all means, check out Kevin's video channel. I think he's called The Lion Whisperer. The Lion Whisperer SA, I think, is what his channel is. So do check it out. And he's got a really wonderful sanctuary, and the work that he does and what he shares is quite captivating. And working with these magnificent black leopards and also hyenas. Yeah, so all from the farm, or the game reserve in Cullinan, place called Welgedacht Private Game Reserve. So these animals are essentially in their natural habitat. And even though they might have enclosures, the enclosures are large, and even with the black leopards, they're in a large enclosure that is ideal for what they are. The right kind of natural vegetation, etc. You see now that makes a difference. Yes, please. I'm blue, right. Let me wipe my hand before I continue. Or try to wipe my hand. Right, that has made a difference, because as I had started with, I'd started by bringing in a little bit of the blues and lilacs into the grass as well, and that might seem a bit weird, but when you consider how, I'm going to start doing a little bit more now. When you consider that this being early morning light, and if you think of early morning light, the sun has just risen. Perhaps it's a little way up from the horizon now. It's still glowing orange. It hasn't quite intensified into its bright yellow yet. So it's casting a wonderful orange tinted glow over all that it touches. However, given the angle of the sun and the low, its proximity to the horizon line, it still casts these deep shadows, and those deep shadows are not black. They're an intense composite of blues and lilacs and purples and so on. So what I'm trying to do here is, in these sort of shadowy areas, even though it's not apparent in any of my reference imagery, of course, which are in turn taken from a YouTube video. In any case, they sort of I took a number of screenshots. I try to imagine being there and what I'm seeing in my mind's eye, if I was present at the location. And when I do that, these are the colors and sensations that come up, and the colors that I see. And we should be mindful of these observations whenever that they are there, they are present. All these colors, there's a richness of colors, that a whole spectrum of light and of colors that exist and change measurably as the sun rises, as the sun gets higher in the sky. So the light changes, and so the light spectrum changes, almost like a kaleidoscope. And shapes change along with the shortening of the shadows as the sun rises, etc., 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 etc. So there's a really diverse series of lighting events that kind of morph as the day grows. And until such time as you have midday, when there's virtually no shadows, there's no cast shadows, whenever with the sun is directly above, and that's why the best compositions in terms of lighting feature directional light from either the back or either one side or the other, which means low light, either dawn light or dusk light, sundown light. What am I looking for here, though? I'm looking for a particular blue and that I can't seem to find. Where are you? Oh, there you are. Yes, and photographers would refer to that as butter lighting. It's kind of buttery, if you know what I'm saying. It's kind of, it's like marmalade, and you want to spread it on toast, that kind of thing. That sort of molten metal, molten gold, and there's a softness to it as well. Whereas later on in the morning, sort of 10, 11 through till 2 in the afternoon, the light is quite harsh. It's quite hard. So not ideal for photography, not ideal for capturing light. Anyway, that's my kind of 2 cents worth. But if you stop and think about it for a while, it does make sense. My 2 cents. So hence the introduction of the blues here and the lilacs, even into his mane. Using a dark sort of Prussian blue here. So I'm building up here a spectrum of colors, a medley of colors that I can then work over with my eraser as a tool to blend, to bring in some subtle flicking of highlights and so on. And what I'm also doing here is building this a richness of color. So I will be working over it in terms of putting grass in and so on, and depicting the grass better. But when I do that, at least I have a wonderful, rich basis of color and depth to work with, to work over, as opposed to doing it all on one layer type of thing, which is virtually impossible. You don't get the same kind of depth. So here I'm working in layers, and I started out with using my charcoal as the first layer to get the composition going, the contrast, light and shade areas, etc. And then slowly bringing in the color as another layer. But even as I work here, I can still see the underlying initial layer of charcoal. So it all works together. And this is the reason I enjoy this, working with this mixed medium of charcoal and chalk pastel, as well as Conte crayon, and occasionally, especially with seascapes and so on, with a little white acrylic. So given that it is the early morning, I still want to maintain the integrity of this soft lighting, pastel lighting, pastel shades, pastel tones. Yeah. Okay. And also this session, another reason that I realized that I needed to spend a bit more time on it than just trying to complete it during this session. So there we have it. It is necessary. Right, so what do I need to do now? What do I need to do now? Let's bring in some of this very pale lilac. I want to just distant, perhaps little koppies or hills or plains far in the distance. Just giving rise to that sense of the endless plains of Africa. Yeah, I want to lighten this a little bit down here as well. But sometimes when I do these smooth vignettes, or very occasionally, as I rub here, it picks up a little of a slight, very subtle fault in the paper. and I can see it just there, but it's fine. It actually gives it more character, adds to the uniqueness of it, I suppose. A subtle flaw. Yeah. Right. Let's bring in now some of this lilac into his body. And of course, when it blends with other colors, it doesn't come out quite as dark as lilac, so which is a good thing. But it just adds to the form quite nicely. Once again, I'm not going to work with his face, with the rendering of his face more than what it is currently until the final session, and right towards the end of the final session. It's like almost like a little finale of sorts. But I want to get his body nice and I want to pay particular attention to where the sun catches his form, and so on and so forth. You'll see a little bit of work on his face. Okay, fair enough. A little bit here. I just want to get this nice yellow, even though it's not even in the reference image. I want to accentuate how the sun catches his. Yeah, that'll do. That'll be. Yeah, and I'll work with this much more closely during the last session. So forgive me if you were expecting this being the final session. It ain't. Meant to burst your bubble. But it will be the next one. So I shall have to re-edit the titles for the previous, for this and the previous two videos to reflect that. So it'll be 1 of 4, 2 of 4, this will be 3 of 4, and of course 4 of 4. My wonderful mathematic deductions. Just building this wonderful mane of his up a bit more as well. A little bit more of the darkness here. And let's use actually my black Conte crayon for this. And of course I'm working over this lovely rich blue and lilac and what have you, and the yellows that are in his, just to capture the mass, the depth of his mane, and then work over that with the dark, because his mane is not black, entirely black. It's a kind of a dark russet, made more apparent by the lighting, the cast light, as much as by the shade in the shadowy areas, in the darker areas. So yeah, we're just building upon that now. once more I reiterate that I am not attempting a highly accurate lifelike rendering. It may seem that way from where you're looking from a video perspective, but close up here, very much not. I'm maintaining the integrity of the graphic qualities of the mediums. Just working with this lovely musculature of his body, his strength, and rather than just keeping it, trying to make it rounded, I'm looking to accentuate slightly, not too much though. I don't want to make it like some kind of Roman or romantic era type of artwork, that it's these heavily muscled. Yeah, it's just it's natural. I want to keep it natural as possible, but just showing his some of his musculature and form. A little bit curl of his tail over here. I mean, already you see, already I'm nowhere near finished, and already we're 6 minutes, 7 minutes out, I think. No, 5 minutes, less than that. So yeah. You're almost done. So just as well, I've decided to push the extra hour. Because I want to spend quite a bit more time on this piece. Let's just bring in a little bit of the and of course the final session I shall determine as to whether it's going to be a 45 minutes session or an hour long session. But I do most definitely require it an extra session. But I'm really enjoying the way these colors are now all starting to work together. Really, very much so. Start hinting at these stalks of grass. Are they called stalks of grass? I forget now. Some of them bent, some of them curved in different directions. Obviously they've been walked on and pushed over, and yeah. I shall be using my white and yellow, pale yellow, white Conte and pale yellow pastels to accentuate the grass. And then I'll start to add in some of these little dry shrubs and funny things there, you know. This time of year, well, I suppose the time of year when he was in this spot, it's perhaps during summer. It's very dry season. So this piece, as I had mentioned right at the beginning, I would like to gift or donate to the Kevin Richardson Wildlife Sanctuary in memory of Siam. But if at all possible. But if you would like, or anyone would like to commission a piece, an artwork, and be it wildlife or a portrait or a pet portrait of some kind, or a seascape, or anything, anything at all really, you're welcome to get in contact with me. Send me a message, and I can package it and send it anywhere in the world. Not a problem at all. So if you feel inclined, please by all means give me a shout. Yes. Right, guys, I think that's it for today, for this session. Hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. So, yes, if you're newly hooked upon my channel, then please, if you like what you see and enjoy the proceedings, then do subscribe and hit the bell icon, and then get notifications of any future uploads that I might make, and like and share and all that good stuff, and by all means comment. I always appreciate a comment, and if you'd like to ask me something about my work or whatever, then please do so. I really appreciate that. Yes, so do join me again, and in the meantime I bid you oodles and oodles of toodles. So yes, catch you again next time, folks, and do be good, be kind, be gentle, be caring, be loving, etc., etc. And until next time, goodbye. Cheers, folks. See you again soon. Don't forget to doodle.